Hello and welcome to the weekly Dinosaw for week 20, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week, so let's crack on. The first one is a very weird week in crypto land. So this started last Saturday with Elon Musk being on Saturday Night Live, which is obviously a TV show in America on Saturday, and he was expected to say some things about crypto markets, and he did, and he said things about Dogecoin and Bitcoin. Dogecoin is a bit of a joke, and Bitcoin probably isn't. So they duly went up and down, and chaos ensued. And then separately, there is a coin called Shiba Inu, which is also based on the same dog as Doge, as you can see in front of you. And it was a rival coin, really. They're playing the game of who can be the most kind of temporary weird meme coin, as they're called. Just to go a little bit into the detail of it, Dogecoin originally, it's been around for a while, was set up as a joke, and it's based sort of on Bitcoin blockchain, but it's based on Litecoin, so sort of Bitcoin-ish. And then Shiba Inu, the SHIB coin, was actually based on the Ethereum blockchain, which is kind of the rival, really. It's like 1 and 2 in the sector. So now the inventor of Ethereum wasn't particularly pleased about all this nonsense going on, because what a coin getting so much popularity that's based on the Ethereum network was doing was slowing down the Ethereum network for everybody else doing the good work, basically. So he did something really, really unprecedented last week. So what normally happens when a coin is started is you give half of them away to a secure place, or you burn them. So therefore nobody can own more than 50%, because technically they existed, but they've been burnt, digitally burnt. So what the founders of SHIB did is they gave Vitalik Buterin, who's the inventor of Ethereum, they gave him 50%. And as a goodwill gesture, knowing that he'd never do anything with them because he never has done, and this time he did. So he actually gave them all away to charity, and he gave $2 billion worth to the Indian COVID relief fund as well. So so did something really good with it, but obviously the markets went, what? So that was really interesting. And then separately, Elon Musk has stopped accepting Bitcoin for Teslas, so you can now not do that. And he's gone basically both barrels on the fact that Bitcoin is environmentally unsound, the amount of energy it takes to mine Bitcoin, and he's now actually gone to Dogecoin developers to say, now this needs to be the most preeminent cryptocurrency. So he's working with them to turn what was initially a joke based on Litecoin into something more. So nobody knows what on earth's going on, but rest assured, markets are still down and people don't know what's going on. There you go. Drone news. So this is the Hydra heavy lifting drone. So this is predominantly meant for military use, but it can lift a huge amount. So it can either lift, sort of nominally they say 100 kilos, but on their sort of technical details it says 140 kilos, and it can fly with 140 kilos 22 kilometers. That's if you have 4 jet engines, and that's the secret behind this. Is that most drones will just have propellers, whereas this has propellers and jets. So the jets provide the lift and propellers provide the control. So you can actually also put 4 jet engines on this to do that 140 kilo thing. This one you can see right in front of you has got 2 jet engines, can actually lift, I think, I can't remember the exact stats, but there's one with no jet engines that will actually lift 20 kilos, and it will go 50 kilometers with it. So yeah, so this is obviously from their literature meant for military use. Some stats they give you just as a comparison chart, and why wouldn't you want these? So it can carry 140 blood transfusions, it can carry 35 sleeping bags, or if you don't quite get that as a sense of weight, it can also carry 200 hand grenades. So there you go. However, 140 kilos, that's you plus your lunch and your gym kit. So you could probably get one of these to work at some point. Onto nanomaterial news. So this is Janus. This is a new nanomaterial polymer fabric. This is quite a special kind of t-shirt. So this fabric lets heat in one way, or out the other way, I guess, if you turn it inside out. So if you wear it one way, it will make you 14 degrees warmer. i.e. it will insulate you, and if you turned it inside out, it would all of a sudden start cooling you. It would make you 11 degrees cooler, so it has a sort of a potential 25 degree swing in its temperature gradient. It's very technical. However, so that's kind of neat. So this might be the future of sort of technical sportswear. Apparently it's quite easy to manufacture, so it's not as difficult as you think. I think they also said that it reduces its effectiveness after 5 washes, but not that you'd notice. So yeah, seems pretty normal. But what was also interesting is they went into TENGs, which are triboelectric nano generators, as I'm sure you know. So these are small nano generators. We've seen them a few times on the Dinosaw. But essentially what this can, because you can make things hotter and colder just by flipping them in one way or the other. If you had a hot, the sun was raining down, you turned one of them one way up and the other one the other way, you'd have a temperature difference between the two. And if you then put some sort of material that had electrons flowing in it in between, then the electrons would flow from one to the other, from hot to cold or vice versa. And if you have electrons flowing, that's electricity. So there's a second potential of this, that you might be wearing some sort of t-shirt or clothing that can also power your devices in the future as well. So there you go. This is a little hard to explain, but I'll have a go. So there's two things going on here. First of all, that's an actual hologram. That's a laser that you can see in midair, and you can walk around it and it actually stays where it is. So you can touch it. It won't burn you, it won't kill you, but it's a laser being projected in midair and focusing light in midair. Now the way this does this is spectacularly weird. What it actually does is uses small lasers to capture a little piece of dirt in the air and move the dirt around. So what you're actually seeing, it looks like a circle, or it might look like a crescent, for instance, but it's actually a speck of dirt being manipulated in midair and illuminated by lasers. So if that wasn't weird enough, what's actually happening here is this. So this has been around for a couple of years, by the way. That's why I just have to explain what it is. But what they're actually doing here is, because this is a tiny, tiny, weeny little speck of dust, it can only really be in one space. So if you wanted to walk around it, if you wanted a big display, you can't have it because it's a very, very focused thing. So what they're doing here, it looks like it's actually quite far away behind this little house. If you look on the right hand side here, you can see it looks like it's quite far in the distance. It's almost like it's parallaxing, as it's known. So what it's actually doing here is the actual the house is rotating, the little model house is rotating, but the hologram is actually moving in relation to your eyes. So it's tracking your face and moving the hologram so it seems like it's in the distance. It's adding artificial depth to it. So this is what's called a volumetric display. So it doesn't need any screens or anything like that. You could walk around it, and as long as it can track your face, it can rejig the display to make anything look like it's super far away or very close. So this may well be the future of volumetric displays, as long as there's enough dust in the air to do it. There you go. Flat pack pasta. It's fun to say, but this is quite serious, I guess, at one point, but it's also an evolution of something we've seen before. So we've seen what's called 4D printed technology before. So 4D adds sort of time into it. So what we've seen 4D printed pasta before, which does, broadly speaking, the same thing. You would 3D print pasta, but you would actually print sort of certain lines of stress within the pasta. When it went into the hot water, those lines of stress would activate and it would curl up. Now that's quite difficult to do, so this new way of doing it just uses very intricately spaced grooves. Now you can either print these in, you can cast them into metal, you can do all sorts of things. So it's much, much simpler to do, much more reliable. But what you're seeing here is if you drop the pasta, in this case, it could be metal, it could be titanium, it could be anything, but if you drop the pasta into water, those grooves activate in the way that they've been designed to put stresses into the material, and it can then form different shapes, lots and lots of different shapes. So yes, of course, this will revolutionize the efficiency of pasta packaging, because you can just basically have flat bits of pasta, almost like small playing cards, and you drop them in the water and they turn into shells or whatever. But also you can imagine this being something like a flat pack life rafts or something like that on a boat, where all of a sudden you've now got 20 times the amount of life rafts, or also rocket motor ducts. So when you're taking off, they need to be wide open because it's very hot and they need to get the oxygen in. As soon as you get into space, it needs to close down, etc., etc. So yeah, so the revolution here really is about the efficiency and just using grooves rather than trying to 4D print these shapes. The ransomware attack on a pipeline in America. So this has happened about a week ago. So it's been an evolving story all week. So this was the Colonial Pipeline in America. Broadly speaking, goes from Texas all the way along the bottom to sort of the eastern seaboard. So it's called. So and this is one of the major pipelines for oil distribution in America. Now, this was subject to a ransomware attack. So a group called DarkSide, actually probably turns out it wasn't actually directly them, but what they do is they get into the system and lock some important files with an algorithm. They essentially encode it and then ask you for some ransom. In this case, it was 75 Bitcoin, so about $5 million, which was duly paid within about 3 hours by all the information I've got so far. And then what they do is they send you essentially the unlock key or a piece of software that will undo what they did. Now the only problem is you can't just undo physical pipeline, valves and whatever. And it took quite a long time for it to get up and running, caused a huge amount of disruption on a national level as well. So the government's involved now. Biden's lots of statements on it. What I thought was really interesting about this was actually it wasn't really DarkSide that did it. Is they actually provide the platform for these cyber attacks as a service. So we hear all this kind of as a service bandied around quite a lot. So they provide ransomware as a service. So what they have is affiliates who then do the actual ransomware stuff for them. So that's interesting. DarkSide have gone dark. They said, "Oh, we're out of this business. It's got a little bit too sketchy for us." And of course, they do that all the time, just to sort of shrug off and pop up somewhere else. However, that's kind of weird. The other things like, well, who are these people? Who are DarkSide? So there's some clues that are starting to come out, which is you cannot deploy this software on any platform or any target that their natural language is either Russian, Ukrainian, Georgian or Belarusian. So you can kind of guess where this might be emanating, but it's an evolving story. It's quite interesting as well, but also devastating. So these kind of wide-scale industrial cyber attacks are getting more and more prevalent. And finally, we have the video you probably didn't know you wanted to watch, but probably might do. This is different efficiencies of four-way junctions. It's a fascinating video. It starts all the way back at four ways just coming into a junction with no traffic lights, and then it goes into traffic lights, and then it goes into contraflow systems and all sorts of stuff. And it goes through 20 or so known four-way junction layouts. So it goes all the way from quite a basic 2 lanes coming in on a crossroads with traffic lights. I think you can get about 235 cars or vehicles per minute, to all the way up to what's called the stack interchange, which can get nearly 1,100 vehicles per minute. Obviously, in terms of conditions apply, you might need a bit of land to be able to do some of these things, but a fascinating video. Didn't really realise the sort of work that goes into these junctions. You just sort of see them and on the motorway, and you just think that must have been just how it needed to have been. But there are certain designs that are like that because they're efficient. So it's an evolving space, and yeah, I might check in on this in another couple of years. With that, we are done. Hopefully that was useful, slightly strange, and see you again next week.